What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Scott Procter, and here's Matt Morris, and we're back with another episode of Simple Question. And this time, we'll have another edition of Procter's Pantheon. If you haven't already, go back on our page and check out last week's episode where I unveiled Procter's Pantheon. That edition was the top 15 players in the NBA, according to moi. This edition will be Procter's Pantheon, but the top 15 NBA playoff performers currently still active in the NBA. If you watched last week's episode, you know this is a tier-based list. We got a few tiers. Our players, we're going to get right into them. Our guy Matt right here is going to critique me a little bit, give me his thoughts. So we're going to start right here at the bottom, work our way up of the top 15 playoff performers in the NBA still currently playing in the league. We're going to start with two guys that didn't make the list that had real consideration for me. That'll be Jimmy Butler and Trey Young. Two guys, obviously Jimmy Butler has led his team to the finals. He's back in the Eastern Conference Finals, and Trey Young obviously just took the Hawks last year to the Eastern Conference Finals. Those are two guys who I believe get better in the postseason, although Trey's numbers in the postseason this year in that series against the Miami Heat left a lot to be desired. I still believe in him, but nonetheless, you know, Jimmy Butler as well. He's kind of on and off. He can give you great peaks in the playoffs, and you know, he'll also have stinkers, like he did the other night against Boston. So those are two guys, Jimmy Butler, Trey Young, who were just outside of Procter's Pantheon for the NBA playoff performers. But let's start with the first tier. It's called Next Gen. We got three guys, Devin Booker, Ja Morant, Jamal Murray. All three of these guys have dropped 40 pieces, 40 balls in the postseason, respectively. Obviously, Devin Booker went to the finals last year. Ja Morant has exploded onto the scene with some great playoff performances this year. And obviously, Jamal Murray missed all of this year with the injury. But last seen, he was completely dominant and showed to be one of those players who becomes better, point blank period, in the postseason. He dropped a 50 ball in the postseason in the bubble. Stuff he was doing in the bubble, you know, alongside Nikola Jokic to take the Nuggets to the conference finals was unbelievable. So this is the first tier, Next Gen, Booker, Ja, Jamal Murray. The next tier is the bigs. First name, Anthony Davis, might, you know, turn some people off. But listen, Anthony Davis, career in the playoffs, 27 points per game. That's more than Giannis in the playoffs. That's more than Curry in the playoffs, more than the two other guys in this tier who are Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, two of the best players in the NBA who get just as...
Not as many games to go off of.
Not as many games to go off of, sure. But when last seen in the postseason, Anthony Davis was arguably the best player on the Lakers team that, you know, obviously won it all. Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, I don't think nothing needs to be said really there. They are awesome in the regular season and stay right there, if not improve in the postseason. So that's the bigs category. We'll move on to the next one. We got a couple Robins, a couple guys who have played in NBA Finals, won NBA Finals as the second best player on the team. That's Kyrie Irving and Klay Thompson. You know what you get from these dudes. Kyrie Irving arguably had the greatest shot in NBA Finals history. Do I need to mention Game 6 Klay? I think we know what he's all about. So those are two guys who, you know, when it's postseason time, they're going to be locked in and they're going to give you production on the offensive side of the ball. The next tier, RJ Rowlett. This is a different one. It's called Finals MVP loading. These are guys who one day will likely win the Finals MVP, will likely be the best player in the championship team. Luka Doncic is the first name. He's going to one day be a Finals MVP. Same thing for Jayson Tatum. It might happen for him this year. Point blank period. Maybe. And the last guy who might, you know, have some raised eyebrows, it's Steph Curry. We know what Steph Curry is. Greatest shooter ever, one of the best players ever, but he's yet to acquire a Finals MVP. KD got a couple.
Might happen this year too.
Andre Iguodala got one. And similar to Jayson Tatum, Steph Curry could also acquire his first Finals MVP this season. So these are three dudes who are clearly more times than not the best player on a championship caliber team. And that their team ends up getting to that point, they're going to be the Finals MVP. They'll get one day. For a couple of those guys, it could be in a couple weeks here. Let's load the next tier, though. That is the Legends list. Point blank period. These dudes are legends. They have done it. They have won titles as the best player, won Finals MVP. We're going to start with Kawhi Leonard. We saw what he did in Toronto. Kevin Durant. We saw what he did in Golden State, winning back-to-back Finals MVPs. And Giannis Antetokoumnp, we saw what he's done throughout the playoffs, obviously leading the Bucks on one of the most miraculous Finals run that perhaps I've ever seen, at least since LeBron came back from 3-1 in the Finals over Golden State Warriors. So these are three legends, point-blank period, who have done everything that a basketball player hopes to do. And the last tier is just one guy. It's just the GOAT. It's just the greatest of all time. LeBron James sits by himself among active NBA player performers. Nobody has the resume or even close to the playoff resume that LeBron James has. 8 straight finals should say it all. 4 championship rings. Undoubtedly the best player in the league on his team on each of those finals runs. So LeBron James has a tier all by himself, as he should. Atop Procter's Pantheon of the top 15 active NBA playoff performers. What do you think, Matt? Talk to me. Do you have any issues? Did I get it right? What's up?
I have some guys that I'd like to see on this Procter's Pantheon.
Some guys I left out?
Yes, absolutely.
Talk to me.
All right, let's go right away with, as far as the next gen, Donovan Mitchell. As much as his Utah Jazz teams have underperformed.
Full disclosure, Donovan Mitchell was on my next gen tier. He was taken out at the last moment for Ja Morant. I originally had Devin Booker, Jamal Murray, and Donovan Mitchell because
I almost would have taken out Jamal Murray because he had that one. It was a great run.
Sure,
it was
fair,
a great run.
Fair,
but it was the one run. So Donovan Mitchell right off the bat. And
okay, that's fair. I'm actually with you on that.
I've been a fan of his since the original Pacers versus Heat matchup.
But can I push back? Can I push back?
Yeah,
why why I didn't put Donovan Mitchell on this list?
Okay.
How far has Donovan Mitchell taken the Utah Jazz? All these guys in this tier, Devin Booker has been to the finals. Ja Morant has probably been as far, got the least far as these other guys. Yep. He's obviously only been to a conference semifinals. I believe Donovan Mitchell has done that as well.
Twice.
And obviously Jamal Murray has been to the conference finals as well, something Donovan Mitchell hasn't done. So that was kind of where I got the edge to those guys over Donovan Mitchell. But go ahead.
Mitchell is just, like, in my opinion, I think he's been the best player on those teams.
No doubt.
He has more experience in the playoffs. And, I mean, I can remember when he first took that Jazz team, he was going back and forth with, Chris Paul and James Harden with the Rockets. So, that was one. And then Paul George. Paul George is a guy that has consistently balled out in the playoffs.
Fair.
Since he was with the Pacers, going up against LeBron James.
Epic duels.
Dunking on Birdman.
Yeah.
Those were awesome, unfortunately.
Fair.
And then even after the injury, it was a quick exit with OKC because unfortunately just, wasn't able to.
Team just wasn't good enough.
It wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
Dame time is Dame time. But even coming back from the injury, he had to go up against LeBron James and Cleveland, and everyone knew they were going to get swept. Paul George still balled out, and then he's been balling out with the Clippers.
Yes.
Clippers would have made the playoffs this year if Paul George hadn't have gotten COVID and been out of it. They would have won that play-in game.
Fair.
So right off the bat, I got to go with that. That's another one right away that Paul George stands out. I'm kind of surprised. I know he has a bad history, but Chris Paul has balled out in the playoffs. Is that why no Chris Paul on this list? Is it because of how all of his playoff runs end?
Yeah.
Is that
quite honestly?
Is that why?
When we think of Chris Paul in the playoffs, I think there are more disappointments than not.
Okay.
And maybe it could be the recency bias. We saw him absolutely fall off a cliff after he went 14 for 14 in a closeout game to close out the New Orleans Pelicans, your favorite NBA team all of a sudden here recently. But he was not himself, especially late in that Dallas Mavericks conference semifinal series. So again, Chris Paul, I gave it a quick thought, but those guys that I have ahead of him, I just can't see Chris Paul being ahead of those guys. Again, if he would have, maybe not blown a 2-0 lead in the finals this past season, maybe he would have, got the list if he hadn't contributed to blowing multiple 3-1 leads with the Clippers and Doc Rivers years ago. Maybe, but no, he's a clear being left on this list.
It's not a bad list.
It's okay to say it was a great list. It's okay to say it was a great list.
No. I mean,
okay.
I think I brought up some pretty great players
You did.
that need to be.
Paul George is valid.
Flowers,
George is valid. D. Mitch is valid. But let us know in the comments. Let us know in the comments who you would like to see added to Procter's Pantheon of the top 15 NBA player performers. Did I get it right? Let me know some. Talk to me. Because, Matt, you gave a couple of suggestions, but I ain't vibing with those too well. But let us know in the comments. So this is a fun episode. Let us know what you know about Procter's Pantheon. But for Scott Procter, our guy Matt Morris right here, we'll catch you on a soon episode of Simple Questions.